So freely flows the endless love you give to me.
Mike from Brixworth Community Church. My story today comes from a remote country church. Such a small church in a remote part of the world, it could no longer afford its own clergyman. And so this church was dependent on visiting clergy to conduct the Sunday services. Now, one Sunday in winter, a newly retired parson who had moved into the area had a phone call. And the church warden said, can you come and lead the service this Sunday? Our rota's sort of broken down, and I heard you're newly retired. Can you turn up on Sunday? So the retired clergyman said, yeah, that'll be no problem. Sunday came, it was very cold and wintry, there were icy roads, but he battled through. He'd never been to this church before, but he found it, and he turned up on time, which was great, and waited by the church warden. And the church warden invited him into the vestry, where he put his robes on and said something about the church and its history. But he also said, as I said when I rang you up, we've only got a very small congregation, and very limited funds, I'm afraid. Rather than pay you expenses this Sunday, is it all right if we just give you the collection for the Sunday? And the visiting minister said, yeah, well, that's okay. He realised the circumstances and said, that'll be okay. We'll sort it out at the end. Well, pleased to know that the service went well. He was well received, and the message was a good one, and everything was going swimmingly. And we came to the third hymn, and the collecting basket was passed round, and the collecting bag actually was passed round, and the visiting clergyman dropped in his 50 pence. At the end of the service, he stood by the door and shook everybody's hand, and everybody departed, and everything was sweetness and light. And he went into the robing room and took off his robes, and there in the vestry, the church warden said, done a really good job, thanks very much. And by the time he got his outdoor clothes on, the church warden emptied the bag out, and out rolled this one solitary 50 pence. So this is our contribution towards your expenses, the church warden said. And the minister looked and saw 50 pence. Is that all? Just 50 pence? And the church warden said, well, that was the arrangement we spoke about at the beginning, and you agreed to. And the minister said, yeah, but that's my 50p. And of course the church warden simply said, well, if you put more in, you would have got more out, wouldn't you? It's a story about giving generously, isn't it? And we do get as much out as we put into these sort of things, not just collections, but society in general, and not just church, but life in all its richness. 2 Corinthians says something on this. 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verses 6 to 9. Remember this, whoever sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and whoever sows generously will also reap generously. Each man, and woman of course, should give what he or she has decided in his heart to give, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. And God is able to make all grace abound to you, so that all things at all times, having all that you need, you will abound in every good work. As it is written, he has scattered abroad his gifts to the poor. His righteousness endures forever. So the story is all about giving generously, isn't it? Giving freely, giving wholeheartedly. God bless you.